The movie opens with a man walking into the police station with blood pouring from his head. He arrives and informs the police officers that he has killed a man. When they learn this, the cops are equally taken aback and arrest the man. He claims that he killed him while he was fighting his enemy, but now he is regretting his doing. The scene changed, and we were given a view of 3 years later. Then we come upon an officer named Luke. He is currently being summoned to the crime scene where they found a dead body. According to reports, the deceased man was a boxer. They can see the blood around his eyes as well as the shattered muscles in his muscles. He allegedly suffered significant maltreatment from him. He made numerous attempts to fight that man, but he was still killed, because the opponent had superior boxing skills to this man. Then we see a man named Mo. He was the same person we have seen at the beginning of the movie, one who killed a man and come to the police. This man has been incarcerated for 3 years while leading a comfortable life. He is bothered by a bunch of inmates as well, but he prefers to avoid getting involved with them. Later, he watches TV news coverage of the murder. He paid close attention to every word of the news. This gave the impression that he was knowledgeable about the murder after all. Then he approaches the security guard and requests to speak with Officer Luke. The guard inquires as to his motivations for meeting and speaking with him. He claims that he wants to talk about the recent murder that occurred, but the guard doesn't trust his words, thinking he will run from jail if he finds any opportunity. Then we see him fighting with the members of the group, which always bothered him. The group's leader hurls a metal plate at him. In exchange, he breaks both of his hands. He beats the leader and injured him very severely. The warden believes that this man was not as ferocious as he appears, but she has no idea why he hit the leader so hard. She wanted to know why this was happening, so she called Officer Luke. When Officer Luke shows there and approaches him, he claims he wants to tell him something regarding the recent homicide. He reveals to the officer that the previous victim was once his friend. He claims that they had previously engaged in combat, but lost. The manner in which his friend was killed gave the impression that the perpetrator would go on to kill a lot of people. He has no desire for money or any sort of retaliation. He actually desires a fight with the best kung fu practitioner. The officer asks him how he was so sure. He responds that right now he has no answers, but if they release him, he will undoubtedly learn the truth. The officer believes that he is telling these things to get out of jail, which is why he is doing it. Now when the officer gets up and starts going, he reveals 7 names and says that one of them will be the next target of the killer. She still doesn't believe him and leaves the interrogation cell. When she came outside, she ordered one of his men to get every detail about all 7 people. Then we see the killer who was writing the name of a man on the wall. The name written on the wall is the name of one of the people Mo told about the officer. A man is working in the art museum. When he was alone there, then the same killer comes here. The killer challenges the man to fight him, and the man accepts his challenge. The two then engage in a battle. Both of them have expertise in kung fu. Eventually, the killer kills him and escapes from there. Then, we see the cop looking up the profiles of the 7 individuals that Mo had mentioned as the killer's potential future victims. She was unable to comprehend how the killer would kill them because everyone lived in various locations, and they had all studied martial arts. When she was checking everyone's profile, she learned that one of the 7 men had been killed. They'd take Mo out of the jail to solve the case. Mo tells the officer that the killer first killed a person who fights with hands, then he killed the person who fights with legs. His next target would be a wrestler. Then we see that the killer had already killed the wrestler and threw his dead body out of the window. They see a mark on the shoulder of the wrestler which had been also present on the shoulder of the previous victims. Mo spotted the killer who was smiling at him. He runs after the killer, but the killer successfully escapes. Now that Mo is alone, he decides to run. After escaping from the grasp of the officers, Mo visits his home. There he meets his wife. He is very happy to meet her. She brings him home and forces him to adorn his wrist with a holy band. He is meant to just fight to defend himself and prevent him doing the same mistake because of which he was in jail. Late at night, Mo finds the same dagger in his belonging. He asks his wife about it. His wife says that a crippled guy begged her to retain the dagger a few months ago when he came to their martial arts school. The two decide to visit the town historian the following day because she believes he may know what the symbol on the dagger means. A flashback then depicts Yusao and his deceased wife, who was suffering from cancer. The only person in the entire world who loved him was her. He trained martial arts day and night as she was dying to distract himself from his thoughts of her unavoidable demise. Mo and his wife decide to visit a historian and ask him for further information about the dagger. The name of the symbol is Eve Swallow. It was given to the loser of a martial arts match during the rule of the Qing dynasty. When a nearby man overhears the couple discussing Yu Sao, he claims to know him. He claims that Yu Sao once resided in a nearby village with his deceased wife a few years ago. Due to a birth defect, Yu Sao was born with one leg that is shorter than the other. Nevertheless, he was able to learn martial arts methods via perseverance and hard work. Mo then calls Detective Luke and claims to have a lead. The cops arrive in the town right away to meet him and head to the murderer's hometown. When they get to the killer's house, they discover that he has already left. The landlord tells them that she has only ever seen Yu Sao doing his training. In order to make his skin thicker and withstand more beatings, he also used to rub salt into his face until it bled. Then, the cops discover writing on the wall that claims the man has lost everything and that his sole goal now is to compete against the best martial artists to become the best. He has been murdering some of the best warriors for this reason, and he intends to kill even more. Yu Sao, meantime, moves on to his next victim, an actor and former fighter. He dares him to swords-only combat this time. After a protracted and violent fight, Yu Sao kills the victim by slitting his throat. Detective Luke is shocked by the latest murder. As the case got more complicated, the higher-ups ordered her to solve the case as soon as possible. She implores Mo to follow suit, but he appears to be withholding information from them. Mo once received a letter from Yu Sao while he was incarcerated that hinted at a challenge. Mo didn't understand what it meant at the time, but he now understands that Yu Sao has chosen him as his final opponent. Detective Luke begins to suspect Mo as well, so she requests the prison CCTV recordings of each encounter Mo has had with an outsider. Mo remembers the day prior to the first murder while he is alone in his bed at night. He had received a letter from Yu Sao requesting him to watch the news. The police locate Yu Sao's current address the following day and dispatch a SWAT team to the residence. They look all around but can't find anyone. They notice that his wife's ashes are still there as they are about to leave, which suggests he will undoubtedly go back and get them. While waiting for the murderer to return to his home, Detective Luke orders a deployment and orders the police to remain covert. He is spotted riding a boat up to the residence the following morning. His wife was having a terrible time, as seen in a flashback. Yu Sao killed her by strangling her to death because he could no longer bear to see her in such a state. The cops observe him in the present and warily wait for him to approach so that they can all attack at once. However, Yu Sao takes a chance after spotting guard dogs in the area. He vanishes before anyone can find out where he went. A police officer looking at the prison's CCTV footage learns that Yu Sao had visited Mo while he was imprisoned. Assuming that Mo and Yu Sao were behind the killings and that their goal was to free Mo from prison, Detective Luke raises her revolver at Mo. In the meantime, Mo's wife left on her own to search for Yu Sao. Mo easily took the weapon from investigator Luke and flees to look for Yu Sao and his wife. Yu Sao and Xin Ying meet inside his home at the same moment. She delivers him the burned remains of his wife and tells him to leave her husband alone. Yu Sao, however, is of the opinion that Mo will become even more powerful if he murders her. They engage in combat, and Xin Ying, another skilled fighter, challenges him to a duel. He eventually stabs her in the arm though and then flees. When Mo arrives, he sees his wife on the ground and he calls for help. Right outside the house, he sees Yu Sao and he leaps to catch him. The ash container breaks when they arrive on a boat. They struggle and stumble into the water. Yu Sao succeeds in climbing onto the deck of another boat. After crashing on a boat with investigator Luke and the policemen, he eventually vanishes in the water. After ensuring that his wife will be spared, Mo also flees to catch the killer. When he originally received Yu Sao's letter, he believed him to be only a fan. He tells investigator Luke over the phone. Mo taught him everything he needed to know about martial arts while he was still inside after noticing his interest in martial arts. He had no idea that Yu Sao would murder people with the information. Mo was also aware that Yu Sao was pursuing Xin Ying. If he had notified the police right away, they wouldn't have needed his assistance. He, therefore kept it a secret so that he might escape the jail and rescue his wife on his own. Mo is aware of Yu Sao's upcoming victim. Using the information, he is able to track down Yu Sao. Mo has the opportunity to run him over, but he chooses not to do so because he wants to fight the man. Yu Sao rejoices that his wish has come true. In order to respect one another as opponents, the two join hands and begin the fight in the middle of the road. Due to their nearly equal strength and skill levels, they are unable to hurt one another. But when Yu Sao becomes fatigued, Mo throws him to the ground where he nearly gets run over by a car. Then they start fighting using bamboo. Unfortunately, Mo is suddenly dragged under a car, which drags him even further. It's enough to knock him out cold. Yusao seizes the opportunity and drags him to the other side of the road. He is about to murder Mo, but Detective Luke arrives and shoots him dead. Mo is eventually taken to the hospital. He is back in prison 3 months after the incident. Detective Luke pays him a visit and informs him that he will be released soon. In the final scene, we see Mo and Sinying taking photos with students from their martial arts school. The movie ends here. If you enjoy the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel.